Hello, and welcome to LA Not So Confidential, the premier forensic psychology podcast. My name is Dr. Shiloh.
And I'm Dr. Scott, and we host a podcast that explores the intersection of forensic psychology, true crime, and how those concepts are represented in entertainment. We wanted to take a moment and update this very first episode for anyone just discovering our little pod and starting off at the very beginning with us, no matter what year you're currently in. Now, when we started this show back in 2017, our formula might not have been as clear as that description that I just gave you. Our first recording of our first episode that night, we were just two best friends who happened to be forensic psychologists actively working in this profession in actual forensic settings. And we saw a void in the podcast space of people talking about the real ins and outs of this job and how it relates to true crime and the legal system.
We were hoping to find an audience that would be interested in us sharing some real clinical research that we found endlessly fascinating. This has been an 8-year project of creative growth, professional growth, and an enormous amount of data being put out into the world in these relatively small bites.
Starting at the beginning of a podcast can be daunting. This is why we wanted to take a step back and address episode 1.
We are so happy that you're listening, but maybe with some of this orientation, it will allow you to get even more value out of our catalog of work. Yes, there is a ton of benefit you can get from binge listening through our archives, and we believe that this content builds upon itself, but really there's no need to listen in order. There might be some repetition, but as we know, when you're learning a new skill or topic, it can be super helpful to have some reminders along the way. And there were a number of episodes that we ended up finding new research for later, and we definitely go back and address that.
We are super excited that you're here and you're about to start on a journey of getting to know what the real forensic psychology world is like, and also getting to know us. We would love for you to subscribe to the show right off the bat, but we also know there's a ton of other material that lives on beyond this podcast. You can visit our website, which is linked in the show notes, to peruse all of our resources, and there are a lot of them for each episode, as well as links to guest spots that we've done on other shows, and just a ton of other information.
And you can also go over to our YouTube channel where we hosted a live show called Behind the Couch, where we typically talk to other people in the true crime, criminal justice world. Our Patreon is also still up and running, and anyone can join for just $1 a month to have access to all of that content there as well. With that, we hope you enjoy this bumbling first introductory episode to get to know who we are and why we started doing this in the first place.
We hope that you'll show us some grace with the technology, the sound quality or lack thereof, and also with us finding our way as hosts. Trust us, it gets better with time, and we hope that you have as much fun listening as we did recording. Let us know what you think. Thanks, folks. Welcome to the intro podcast of LA Not So Confidential. This is a podcast devoted to the subject of forensic psychology. I'm Dr. Scott. I'm a forensic psychologist working in Southern California. I'm here with my amazing best friend and co-host,
Dr. Shiloh, and I am also a licensed psychologist in the state of California and a forensic psychologist.
So we're here because we want to provide some education on the subject of forensic psychology. In the podcast world, there's a lot of great podcasts about different kinds of psychology, different areas of study and research, but there's virtually nothing on the field of forensic psychology by people who are actually working in the field. This is what we hope to bring to you. We hope to bring some fun as well as maybe some education. Hopefully you'll enjoy this the way we enjoy the exploration of the work that we're very passionate about. I'm a licensed MFT. I'm also a licensed psychologist. My emphasis in my doctoral studies was family forensics. So I have a background of training in being an expert witness, I work in the fields of family law, family and child assessment, child custody evaluation, mediation, conflict resolution, and I'm also trained in crisis negotiation. Shiloh.
So I hold a master's and a doctorate in forensic psychology, and those are both from Alliant International University here in Los Angeles. And as far as my expertise in working with forensic clients, I've really focused on working with offenders. And so I have worked with them before they go to prison. I actually still have a private practice in which I do this. And then working with them when they get out of prison, primarily evaluations and then treatment. So I have recently shifted to working in law enforcement psychology this year, and I have a whole new clientele. So looking at the world of forensic psychology, I think between the two of us, we have quite a bit of experience from different environments, and that's what we really want to bring to this podcast.
We should also mention that we both come to this field from very different fields. We came to psychology as adults, right, as opposed to some people who go right into doctoral work from undergrad. I was an entertainment professional in Southern California for 20 years, working as an agent's assistant, a casting director, a talent manager, and eventually a line producer for DVD content. And Shiloh has additionally a fascinating background as well. Tell us about that.
Well, I worked in law enforcement for 10 years, and 7 of those 10 years I was a police officer. So
And you come from
a very heavy law enforcement family.
Right.
So I like to tell my clients now I am a daughter, sister, wife of law enforcement officers. So I have lived and breathed that life for a long time, which brings a really unique perspective, I'm sure. But yeah, I was just a normal patrol cop for 7 years.
Which is really going to be a fascinating perspective on everything that we talk about.
Sure. I think, when I came to you with this idea, it was really trying to marry a few things that we're interested in. Obviously, true crime, obviously, some of the entertainment and media around it, even if it is fiction, and looking at the forensic psychology topics that are kind of weaved in there. But I also felt like the other podcasts and other entertainment outlets that I turn to are constantly asking for experts in the area to come in and talk because maybe they don't have that expertise, which is sometimes entirely the whole point. It's just entertainment based. But I feel like a lot of times I'm sitting in my car kind of screaming at the radio because a term is wrong,
right,
or I am writing letters to Karen and Georgia on My Favorite Murder because I want to just kind of set something straight. And they're so wonderful, by the way, to read these letters and take the input. But for us to really be the subject matter experts, right, and apply that to all of the above.
So hopefully we're going to be able to give you a perspective on what we do in our work. And what we want to do to keep it really interesting is we're going to go back and forth between true crime, things that are actually going on right now that are in proceedings that would be known to a larger audience, and maybe some things that are kind of obscure. They might be subjects or crimes, proceedings, trials that you don't know anything about, but we think that they're really interesting, and we'll tell you why these are particularly interesting. It may relate to how law is going to change or how it's impacting the culture at large. We also are going to be bringing in other experts in the field. We're going to be bringing in law enforcement experts as well as mental health experts that go even farther and deeper in those certain areas of expertise than we do, because we always want to challenge our own fixed notions about things. We want to make sure somebody comes in and shakes us up a little bit as well.
Absolutely. I think it's also important to note that because we are licensed psychologists and we are not just somebody starting a podcast that doesn't have any obligation to any professional guidelines, we do.
We absolutely do.
So there may be some carefully worded sentences coming from us because we need to make sure we are not crossing or breaking any guidelines or rules or ethics standards that we do have to abide by. So we can't, as much as we're going to keep this casual and kind of, make it very personal and colorful, we can't just really fly by the seat of our pants in a lot of different areas. We may even have to stay away from certain cases that are sensitive to the agencies that we work with.
So forensic psychologists are licensed psychologists who specialize in applying psychological knowledge to areas in the criminal and civil arenas that are directly related to legal matters. We hold graduate degrees in psychology, and those are either a PhD or a PsyD. Sometimes you can have an ED, which is an educational psychology degree, but that's very rare.
Yeah, I would say the simplest way to think about it is anywhere where psychology and the criminal justice system overlap, which could be huge. I mean, I have friends that are doing child custody evaluations for courts. Your experience with working in the prisons, just doing evaluations for courts, competency to stand trial, insanity evaluations, sexually violent predator evaluations. Anywhere where those areas overlap, that's going to be your forensic psychology. So,
right. And I should have said that earlier. I did work in the state corrections system for many years. So in this line of work, sometimes forensic psychologists are integrally involved in helping to design newer prisons. Unfortunately, that does not happen enough. And a lot of what happens in the prison system now is they're sort of trying to use an old prison, the physical design of the building, for treating their mentally ill inmates, and that doesn't work so well. We wish there was more involvement with forensic psychologists in that design process. So like Shiloh said, it's that juxtaposition between criminal justice, in other words, law enforcement, academic training, corrections, and then criminal. Yeah, you were going to talk about criminal.
Right. So just kind of distinguishing with criminal psychology, I think for the audience, probably most people think of criminal profiling when they think of something like that. Very rare, something that is, probably not even done by psychologists for the most part. You're going to find the most criminal profilers working with the behavioral analysis unit in the FBI, and they often are not psychologists, and they're special agents that are specially trained. But there are case-specific type of consultations that law enforcement psychologists can be a part of. If you're working with a law enforcement agency that wants some input on their cold case or their unsolved serial killer or serial rape case, that they may go to somebody that works with their department as a psychologist and has expertise in the background.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I always think I have to explain to people we're not B.D. Wong, kind of like just hanging out around the Law and Order police office. I love those episodes where BD just suddenly shows up and drops some wisdom on.
When I got this most recent job, my brother goes, "You're that guy." And that's exactly what he was talking about. I don't know.
No offense to BD Wong. He's a wonderful actor. We just wish it was a little bit more accurate about how law enforcement psychologists are fold into that.
Don't worry. If this part seems dry, we're going to weave in a hefty amount of entertainment for you with all of those shows that you guys love so much. But yeah, so I guess I didn't say that currently I work for a large law enforcement agency where my job is divided between clinical services for law enforcement as well as training, and then soon to be part of crisis negotiation team.
Right. You're going to love that.
There's options for a case-specific consultation that I was just speaking about.
We're both really, really lucky in that we get to do some of the most amazing trainings, really hardcore trainings for our job. Shiloh's about to come up on a training that I got to do last year with the FBI. I'm incredibly jealous because I would pay to do it again. It's the crisis negotiation tactics or crisis negotiation team training for the FBI. And it's really, really amazing because the FBI has a standardized protocol for how to handle full-on SWAT situations and de-escalation of really, really tense situations, which can include someone, that's a hostage situation or a barricade situation, or someone that's about to, not only cause harm to themselves, but their attempt to commit suicide could cause harm to a lot of other people. So it's a great training.
We'll share with you as we get to go to these different trainings. I have lovingly referred to myself as a training whore throughout my career because I think it's part of just loving to learn and how much it motivates me to want to put these new skills to task.
We call it LA Not So Confidential because living in a large urban area, there's a lot of crime here. And even though it's a better environment than it was in the past, this city, the juxtaposition between criminality and entertainment has long existed. And there's a lot of great material to pull from. We're both obsessed with a lot of very well-known cases, such as Heaven's Gate. That was a major event that happened here years ago. In fact, I think we're at the 20-year anniversary, so we got to cover that pretty soon. We got to talk about cult involvement.
Southern California seems to be a breeding ground for cults.
Yeah, definitely.
But just the history. I mean, I love the history of the city now that we're both working downtown proper in LA. Right. From famous cases like the Black Dahlia case, just to know locations of driving by the area where USC now is and thinking, oh, that's where her body was dumped. Yeah. Or she hung out at this bar, and some of those locations are still there, or the old architecture and buildings are still there. All of that, I think, comes into just the interest and fascination with it all, and weaving that into our title, I think, is fitting as well.
Right.
So I think it's really important to talk about why, just leading up to doing this, how we got interested. I mean, obviously we have a career that mirrors some of our sort of nerdy interest in this stuff. Like you had mentioned before, I grew up in a law enforcement family. So it was just there in front of me, parents talking in code, talking about different events that had happened or cases they worked. My dad worked as a child abuse detective. My mom worked as a domestic violence detective. My stepdad worked major narcotics crimes. It really ran the gamut.
Right. All I can think is when you said that is like, great, she's talking about coming from law enforcement, and I come from a family of mental illness. Which is what got me into psychology. We
are yin and yang.
Right, exactly.
That was always around. I don't know that necessarily sparked my interest. That just felt kind of normal. But really early, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so my parents would watch things like Unsolved Mysteries, which was the creepiest shit ever for a kid.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, and I know there's other podcasts that talk about how nostalgic hearing the host's voice or hearing the music. To me, it's frightening. I mean, especially the unsolved crimes, and there's people still out there, and that was really scary.
Well, and that was also very different from any other show at the time, any other cop show, any other mystery, any other supernatural show. It
was so dark.
Because it was dark, and you're sitting there watching it knowing this happened. These are real. Now, sure. He made it a little bit more lurid, but really, I was sucked in by that as well.
Yeah. I think another big point for me, I don't know if it sparked my interest or just also scared the shit out of me, was when I remember being at my dad's house and the news coming on, and they had the breaking news that the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, had been caught. And I remember being very frightened, and my dad saying, no, it's okay, he's caught now. But something about that news broadcast just really stuck with me. And I also think that's just such a fascinating case, and taking place in all kind of Southern California areas and then eventually ending up in East LA was really interesting. When I decided to major in criminal justice in undergrad, I eventually got a job as a police cadet at a local police department. And I was put in charge of property and evidence. And I think my first obsession was the John Benet Ramsey case.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Obviously it is for a lot of people, but I was on forums back then when that was kind of the only thing, and talking to these other, I don't know, seem like housewives all over the country, just kind of doing our own web sleuthing and throwing theories out there. And I thought it was just amazing. And I still to this day, if I feel like God would say, hey, what question do you want answered before you die? I want to know who killed John Benet Ramsey.
Yeah.
Because with as much research and reading, and even with kind of the new look at it that was done earlier this year and the TV show they put together on that, I'm still as clueless as I was day one.
Well, it's really confusing.
It's completely
because
confusing.
we'll go into, we definitely have to do an episode on that because the crime scene got so polluted. It's not, if we'll ever know.
And that's what the experts have really said. You know, you look at Dr. Henry Lee, and he has re-examined that scene and just said this will never be solved.
Yeah.
Because of the evidence being destroyed. So, but for me, that was a real big obsession. And after that, I ended up graduating and getting a job as a police officer. And then, a couple of years later, started my graduate studies. So it stayed with me. I remember, turning to podcasting. That is sort of new for me. I know it's not for you, but do you want to talk a little bit how you got interested in true crime?
Well, yeah, my intro to it was a little bit different because I wasn't from a law enforcement family, and I worked in entertainment. And I think that there were two seminal things that grabbed my attention. One, I remember I was living in Chicago back in the late 80s for a couple of years after I got out of undergrad. And I remember when Oprah was not a huge show, but it was the show to watch because there was always something interesting on.
Right.
And it was when they interviewed Ray Buckey from the McMartin preschool hearings. And I had never heard of it because at that time in my life I was young and dumb and did not stay up on current events. But here I'm watching this show.
Right.
And I remember, I think I was eating dinner or something, and the fork stopped halfway to my mouth as they were interviewing him, because even in my ignorance of world events and, I was living a different life then, I thought, this guy's innocent.
Wow.
As clear as a bell, it came to me, this guy is innocent. This is messed up. And I became obsessed with that. But that was, before we had so much information accessible from a computer, where now you can get all sorts of stuff. But that stayed with me for years, all through my other career in entertainment, just always wondering. And there's some other things that have recently come up about that are really shocking. Shocking in that family, the Buckys, the McMartins, they were completely failed by the justice system and by the mental health system as well. And we'll talk more about that.
Did I ever tell you that my dad was called in as a special investigator?
No, shit.
Okay,
How
Dad,
did you not
might
tell
have
me
to
that?
be a guest.
Okay, we got to get your dad in. I did not know that. That's great.
Yes, I know.
And then the other thing was a show that was people who are not familiar with it, or, watch a lot of reality television now, don't realize how little of it there was back in the early 90s. And, as cable expanded, the networks had to generate content,
sure.
So one of the earliest ones was a show called City Confidential.
So good.
Oh, my God. That was such a great show. And it was a great show, not because it was perfectly well done. There was a lot of holes in it, but it was made the most sort of run-of-the-mill crimes. It turned them into the most lurid things.
Oh, so salacious. I could sit there and lay in bed and probably watch 6 episodes and not even know that any time's
It's
gone
like
by.
Forensics Files.
Totally.
Completely addictive. But the thing that hooked me in is I'm sitting there, living in my crappy apartment in Hollywood, with I think it was the middle of a heat wave or something, and I didn't have any air conditioning. But I remember that one of the episodes came on, and Paul Winfield, God rest his soul, he had a most wonderful voice. He was a voiceover artist that worked for years in television and film. And he had this gravelly voice. He would speak like this. And he caught me because the episode was about something that happened in my hometown.
Oh my God.
And the way he described my hometown, which is Huntsville, Alabama, was the rich upper crust of Huntsville, Alabama didn't like the low-life trash from Birmingham coming in.
So perfect. Which one were you, by the way?
Well, that's Little Evie. I was not rich upper crust of Huntsville. But the thing that was amazing was it was a crime. It was my optometrist. And he had been murdered, and it was set up by his family members. And so we're going to explore that one a little bit later too. But I also like other podcasts. I know you like
I love My Favorite Murder. I mean,
My Favorite Murder.
Could you not? Those women are hilarious, and I adore them. I adore everything about the podcasts that I listen to. That there's so much entertainment value there that I don't mind that podcasts don't get everything right, or that they're not subject matter experts, and that's where we're coming in, obviously.
Right.
But I don't want to listen to me talk necessarily. It's like when I come home, I don't watch cop shows. I don't really like anything too heady. My husband loves like quantum physics, Discovery Channel stuff. I just want to veg out when I listen to entertainment or watch entertainment. So,
and see, I'm the opposite. I'm a bit of the opposite though, because I will get obsessed with those shows, and if there's nothing on, and how is it possible that there's nothing on with Netflix? I mean, we have so many options, but Investigation Discovery has changed the landscape for me. And my husband will walk through and just shake his head and go, "You deal with this all day. Why are you watching these shows?" Because I completely get immersed.
And it's hard. I mean, there are people out there like him that don't give a shit about true crime.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I don't understand how those people exist, because it's amazing and it's fascinating. But I think that's one of our questions, too, kind of coming to the table here, is why are people so interested in this?
Okay, well, my theory, I mean, there's a lot written on this.
Sure.
And, and I come from, the podcast, you like
right.
My Favorite Murder, I think Criminal is an amazing podcast. Great. I mean, it is short, sweet. She's a wonderful producer, does great stories. Mm-hmm. Serial changed the landscape. That Adnan Syed's trial was just riveting for a year and a half.
I remember
listening to that.
You and I were on our way to this therapist mixer, and you're like, "Have you listened to Serial yet? It's great." And I was kind of like, no. And then finally I did, and just burned through that baby, and then ended up listening to
Undisclosed is another. Rabia Chaudhry does a wonderful job.
Sure.
And then, I also like, and then S-Town or Shit-Town.
Right.
Okay, Shit-Town. Also, my connection to that is I went to school with that guy at Birmingham Southern in Birmingham, Alabama. So that is a story that is a wonderful, psychological profile and criminal aspects to it. Sure. But I like some weird stuff too. I like Mysterious Universe with these two wonderful Aussies that talk about, sort of high, what do they call it? High strangeness is all over the place. Lore is great. We love Lore.
Coming out on Amazon as a show.
Yeah, good job. Aaron Mahnke, who sounds like a teenage William Shatner or Captain Kirk. We love him. And what else? That's that keeps me pretty busy, those 4 podcasts.
So what about television now? What are you watching? Anything in particular that's true crimey or interested, or something that you would recommend?
Well, from a fiction standpoint, and we're going to have to do a show on this in the future, is The Sinner. It is a short form, single series that may get, I guess, pulled into a separate series or a series 2. But they're kind of, a lot of television shows are following the American Horror Story, where it's a different story every season but uses the same actors. I cannot recommend this show enough because it's got phenomenal twists, but we're going to use it to talk about a really fascinating psychological state called dissociation.
Right.
Because Jessica Biel knocks it out of the park as an actor in this work. I mean, everybody's great. And Cammie Patton, heads up to Cammie Patton. Oh my God, great casting director. She did an awesome job with this, but we're going to go in depth on that.
That's going to be an important topic because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about that.
There's a lot.
It's so exceedingly rare.
It's so rare, but when it's real, and it's always due to trauma, you know. But a lot of things get it wrong. We'll talk about some of the shows that really entranced the country, but really got it wrong.
Right.
Like Sybil. Sybil was something that I watched when I was young, and we all fell for it, and it was all disproved.
Yep.
And it made great television, made a great book, won Sally an Emmy, but not accurate at all.
I feel like there's a lot being revisited. Like we're at the 20th year anniversary of a lot of things. So I think most recently what I've been interested in, there's been recaps and kind of updates like on the Natalie Holloway case.
Oh, yeah.
And the new show that's going to come out about the Menendez brothers. I cannot wait.
Whoa, that's going to be a good one.
So we will definitely cover that. But I think we're probably going to focus, even in our first real episode, on the Laci Peterson case, which also has some updates to it and some stuff in the works, and that they're revisiting in a TV show.
And we really want to touch on that. I mean, Scott Peterson, looking at his profile as an example of someone who truly led a double life out in the open.
Right.
That's going to be my trademark phrase, is he read a double life but out in the open. It wasn't like he was the BTK killer who
had a double life
that was, completely subsumed in night and serial killing. This guy, he's a special kind of personality that we're going to go in depth on.
Yeah. The podcast I'm late to is the Missing Maura Murray podcast, which is going to be the next episode or next season of Disappeared, which was a Natalie Holloway on Oxygen, and they're going to do a Missing Maura Murray season. And it is, for you guys that haven't heard about it, I believe late 90s, college student in New Hampshire just crashed her car and went missing. And there's a lot of interesting, strange twists along the way that made it get not so run-of-the-mill, and it's still unsolved to this day. So
wow, that sounds great.
People really like cold cases.
Yeah, they really do. Well, I do. I mean, it's fascinating. And it's scary. That's, I think, one of the things that's scary about it is like when there's not a black and white, clear-cut answer for something that, it makes us uncomfortable.
It festers theory, and you're right. It makes people uncomfortable.
I think that's one of the things, the hallmarks of what brings those of us that are into this is that we look at it and it's alien to us. That's why I like the more weird end of the spectrum, as well as, some of the more violent crimes, is like really understanding that there are certainly people who are one-off criminals they commit crimes of passion. But then there are other people that really are psychologically, they are wired differently. Right. They are formed differently from an internal stance. And that can be alien. I mean, we're getting more used to it because we see this stuff all the time.
Sure.
But that's one of the things that's continually fascinating.
But the average person does not have exposure to that. And so it's so hard to wrap your mind around that this is a human being doing these acts.
That makes these choices.
Right. And so we like to label them and categorize them as monsters or psychopaths or evil or whatever. But the real scary part is that it's just a real person.
Yeah. It's not it's not a supernatural monster. No. It actually exists.
Right.
So folks, we've been a little bit over the map in our introduction today, and thanks for bearing with us. We're really excited about bringing this project to you. This is it for our introduction podcast. We're really excited and looking forward to bringing you our absolute official first episode, which is going to be focusing on criminals who lead double lives.
So we're going to definitely explore Scott Peterson, and I really would like to get into some of the new theories that are out there now and developing about the murder. But please let us know what you want to hear about.
Definitely. We want your ideas. We want your input.
So here's a few ways that you can contact us. Our email address is lanotsоconfidential@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is LANotSoPod. You can find us on Instagram at LANotSoPodcast. And then on Facebook, you can find us on the page LA Not So Confidential. So thank you so much. And this has been LA
Not So
Confidential.
Thanks a lot, folks.
Bye.